also set that, and as I have shared that with you, we are going to start working by taking out of the blog one of our piece of paper, watercolor paper. You know the watercolor paper that we have been working with, and we are going to frame for that. We are going to be using either one of the tapes that we have. The white is professional artist tape, which is a little more expensive than the blue or green tape or even yellow tape that you can use. Those are painter's tape that work perfectly for what we are doing, and you frame your watercolor paper as you can see. One of the interesting part of like framing this way is not only because of presentation, but also you're attaching your piece of paper to the table or the pad that you are working with, and so that gives you some stability on what you're going to do. You have to be very comfortable in order to do that. And once we finish with that, we can start working on our painting. So you have this little part, this white or black little part, and you're going to see at the end of the class, we are going to have a pre-frame, in a way, a watercolor. The materials that we are going to use, let's see, I'm not so good this morning. Okay, so the watercolor, the materials that we are going to be using are normally our watercolor pencils, a set of 3 round brushes, one small, which is number 2 or 3, the number 6 or 8, and then I have here a big one that I found, which is the number 14. You don't need those numbers. Even with one brush, it's going to be okay. You're going to be able to do that. A piece of paper, water. The paper that I show is a napkin. And today I changed a palette, and I try to clean my palette so not to confuse you so much. Colors that we are going to use, we are going to use the black, ivory black, and we are going also to be using burnt umber. Okay, so which is the brown one. At this time we are going to be using. I have 2 the ultramarine blue, but also I have cyanine blue, which is another one that I have between my set of different watercolors that I have. Also, I have this turquoise color, and which is you can use that or just one blue. That doesn't matter for what we are having here. What else? What color do we have here? So that also, this is a color that we are not using, but that I have in my colors. I have another tallow blue. Okay. Then I have a permanent magenta, which is the red that you saw. This is another kind of red, which is canyon red. Then you have the ochre color and the Indian yellow, and which is a yellow that is kind of like very warm yellow that we have there. And then we will have 2 different kind of green, which is well, there is the ochre yellow, that the ochre color that we always try to use. And then the 2 different kind of greens that we have there. One is the Viridian green, and the other one is this one, which is a permanent green light. So with that, we have covered all the colors that we are going to use for today, more than the colors that we are going to use for today, because you're going to see that we don't use at the end all these colors. Okay. So we start by as I said, today you don't need to have a picture. Okay, just follow what I have, and we are going to work on some kind of mountains. The landscape that we are painting today, okay, basically is divided in two. Okay, more than half of the paper is going to be mountains and sky, and the lower part, okay, is going to be the water and the reflection of the mountains that you already know because you practiced last week. Okay, and then the reflection of the water, the reflection of the mountains and the sky on the water. Okay, so you just draw those lines, trying to mimic what we did last week. However, this week the mountains are going to be a little softer, not as dramatic as we had last week, as you can see. I grew up with mountains close to me, the Andes, so there's something that I have in my landscape, in my imaginary landscape, but I thought it's a good idea to have that in this class. Okay, so we are going to wet the paper, on the part of the sky and also on the part of the water. I take one of the blue that I have. So the blue that I am using at this point is the phthalo blue. Okay, and I do exactly what I did last time. Okay, so the first stroke of the brush, okay, is going to be like more intense, and then you just dilute a little bit, okay, the same color on what you have in the rest of the paper that is already wet. The way of working with the brush is horizontal. Okay, so it's going to be fast, and then you take some of the napkin or the paper that you have and dry a little bit of paper. Okay, so you have some kind of clouds there. You will do more or less exactly the same thing with the reflection of the water on the paper. You don't take a lot of color there. Okay, it has to be less intense than what you have, and for that I will recommend you to try to make a little kind of gray. So, and for that you work with the brush, horizontally, and don't worry about those kind of imperfection lines. We don't want something flat and something even. This is okay, and you do exactly the same thing. You try to replicate, okay, this kind of cloud that you have in the upper part. Remember that we don't use white. So what we have, the light that we have, is the light from the white of the paper. So we let it dry for some minutes. If you have your hair dryer, use that right now, and we are going to go to the mountains right now. I'm following the mountains. Okay. What we are going to do is we are working on a kind of gray. What kind of gray is? We are going to make a gray made of brown, a little of green, whatever green you have. Okay, so you have the black, you have the brown, and you have some green. With that, not a lot of pigment. Okay, so see how little I use. And I decided that at the end, probably a little of blue is going to be also good and enriching the color that I have. And I am going to work on the first layer of mountains. At this time, I'm working on the first layers of mountain that I have closer to me. So you see that you have another chain of mountain that is in the back that I draw. I'm not working on that. So I am painting with not a lot of pigment. This first layer of mountains For sure, we are going to go over these with some accents later, and and as while the part of the water, okay, is still wet. Okay, we take advantage of that and we insinuate some of the reflection of those mountains on the water. So if the color is too intense, as is in the case that I have done, so you remove part of the color with your napkin, okay, or with your the paper that you have next to you, and do some little accents. Remember, see that the reflections are kind of not really prosaic. It's not the same because the water always is in movement. Okay, so you have these like shaking images of what you have in the upper part. Again, we let it dry for some couple of minutes, and we came back with another brush, and now we are using the second number, and we are going to do the second chain, the mountain that is in the backpack. This one should be not only lighter but also a little more blue. That's why we have chosen this color. So again, very fast. You don't need to be prosaic on that. So we go and we paint a kind of flat color for now. This light. In a way, that's another grade that we have done. Okay, so now we have the mountains that are closer to us already dry, and we can start working on those accents that we have done last week. So this kind of cracks of the rocks or some angles of these mountains that, depending of how the sun is touching the light, you have this part of shadows of the mountains. So that's why we are starting to do this. Also give some more expression to the mountains. You don't need to do exactly what I am doing. Try to be very creative. Remember, the idea of this exercise is that we are working on a kind of like ideal landscape. So the landscape that you have in your mind. So we are learning, okay, or repeating to practice how to do mountains, how to do water, how to do skies. Okay, so next week we go to another different topic. We are not going to do this kind of landscape anymore. So this is it for the water and mountains. So I want you to be very sure that you know how to do that. So we keep working with these accents of color. What colors that I use for this is a color that is a little darker than the color that I already have, and it's a mix of green, brown, and probably even some black, but the black very, 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 very little. See how I'm working on with a brush, okay? So I am not really pushing a lot of pressure on the brush, and I am using just the little part, last part of the hairs of the brush. Okay, so like my brush is round, and so it has like a narrow end, and that is what I use. Sometimes, okay, I use a little more than that when I want a line and stroke that is a little bigger, but for the rest I am kind of drawing lines with my brush, and that's what I want you to do. So the color that I am using is a little more intense. So in this case, the color that I have, the watercolor that I have created is less watery, if that word exists, than what I had before. So you have more water, okay, colors are going to be less intense. You have less water, colors are going to be not only less intense but less transparent, and are going to see less, are going to see more opaque. So we keep working with that, and making some of these details all the time. Good. So we, and there is no plan for that. As I was painting this watercolor this morning, I have been thinking, okay, a line here, a line there, could be good, and that's what I want you to do. So to improvise and to let your inspiration go. And now I am going to do exactly the same thing, okay, with the mountain that is in the back. And for that, as the mountain is a little more blue, and the colors are also a little more intense, okay, so the accents that I'm going to put also are not as intense, okay, and are not the same kind of colors that I have in this first chain of mountains that are closer to me. But the technique is exactly the same. Number one, you have a flat color light, and then you go with these accents and create this kind of texture of the mountains. Okay, so we have more or less, we have our mountains more or less done. I decided the composition, the design is still a little weak, in this part, so I am creating these little parts here and there. That's something you can do too. If you think, I don't like this, I'm gonna put a little more mountains here and there, go for it. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm replicating this texture also, and the part of the mountains, okay, and that I didn't do first. And again, same thing. I created a reflection of that mountain, and I dry it with the paper, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to replicate, okay, the reflection of these accents. The color that I'm using is very diluted, and that is how the water works. Okay, so we let it dry for some minutes, and now using the same medium brush, and probably some of one of two colors of watercolor pencils. I am going to mark and gonna draw the lines of the soil of this, island or whatever is what we have here. So you can even avoid this line. It's just that I thought probably you want to do a line so you know what you are going to do or what are you going to do. I'm going to create it now. Kind of green, okay, kind of green that is a little more intense, okay, mix of green, a little of brown, and some of this ochre color. And I'm going to start working on this kind of line of grass. And for doing that, see what I am doing with the brush. I'm creating this kind of grass, okay, that is going to go, okay, from right to left, all the way to the end of the paper. This also, as you see, I didn't really draw anything, just I marked the line, so I I don't go any other way, and I'm doing this. So this without basically any variation, okay, is what I'm doing until the other end of the paper. See that the color that I am using right now is not so diluted. That is important. You can use the, if you want to create something a little more prosaic, you know, some kind of grass, a little more delicate, you can use the brush that is the smaller one that we have. We keep working with this vegetation all the way. We are mostly done with this first layer. For sure, we are going to go to with a second layer of green. The green that we are going to go over will be a little more intense. And now we go, before that, we go with also the reflection of this grass, of this vegetation on the water, the same way that we have done with the mountains. For that, we are using the leftover of this green, a little more diluted with a little more of blue. So we have this, and we go this way. Okay, so don't worry, there is nothing very exact here. Water is is a fluid and always is in movement, so we take advantage of that, and also that gives us a landscape that is a little more artistic, a little more fluid, visually fluid. So we go on that, and now we will work in a color that is a little more intense. We use the leftover, we put a little of black and brown, and we create a line that is more intense, and that also is giving us the real separation between the land and the water. And for that, you don't need to wait until everything is dry. The color that we have been using is it was not so diluted, so it doesn't have a lot of water, so it dries very fast. You keep doing all this all the way. We keep working on this with our brush. That is our brush, that is the smaller one. We are going to be using that for a while, and you see that's for details. So we have the big one basically always to wet the surface, and we work between the second number, which is the 6, 8, and then the small one for details. We are using the small one. I think this one is number 4. Uh, we let it dry now, okay, and before we go for the last part, oh, well, some of the last parts. I'm gonna make a color that is a little more intense. I mean, far more intense. I'm using the brush that is the smaller one, not with a lot of water. The color is going to be very opaque at this time, and with a lot of basically it's going to be a lot of green and black. Why do we need that? Because we are going to do some the body, okay, the trunk of some trees, and the kind of trees that we are working with are kind of evergreens that are sometimes close to the water. We are not going to do too many, so first, okay, we are going to paint the trunk of those trees. I think you will find very easy to to paint trees, okay, and so we are going to do probably some 4, probably 5 trees. You don't have to have a place, okay, to locate those trees. So just try to imagine, put some couple of trees, 3 or 4, 4 or 5. What you have to have in mind always is that the trees must have some kind of relation, okay, of size between the mountains, okay, and the rest of the landscape. So my trees are not too big. That is also telling me what is the distance, okay, how far I am from that landscape. There is optical illusion and some of perspective that also we have seen in some early class drawing class, some perspective. So I'm doing these trees. See that the color that I'm using is okay. It's a color that is very opaque and very intense. I'm gonna, after I finish with this trunk of the trees, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to make some of the leaves of the trees. You're gonna see. Okay, so I have my trees, and now I'm gonna work, okay, with these kind of dots with green. The green is also a little intense, it's not so diluted, and I'm working with kind of pine, leaves of trees. I'm gonna go for the last tree, which tree that is to the left, and so a little more of green. And I don't want to at least the trees that I am doing are not full of leaves. So, but it's really up to you. Okay, you try to do the trees with the leaves, the vegetation that you want. In this case, I don't want the trees to compete with my mountains, my sky. So the trees are there, but are not also too important in the landscape. Yeah? For sure, we dilute a little bit of the color, and I try to create the reflection of these trees, okay, on the water. Color not too intense, and as you see the landscape, one step at a time, after one layer after the other, gets a little more complex and easy to understand what we are talking about. We let it dry one more time for some minutes, and now I am using again my watercolor paper, and I'm gonna do the kind of vegetation, kind of sort of bushes or trees that are between me as a viewer and the landscape that I have in front of me, because I am not in the water. I am in the other side of the river or the other side of the lake. So I have these branches in front of me. For that, I am using basically the kind of same color that I have used for the trunk of the trees that I have in front of me. And without thinking too much, I am going to start working with these branches, okay? I don't have trees. Those are not really branches of a tree. Those are kind of these bushes that are, close to the water, between the water and me, and basically are not too dense. Okay, that color that I'm painting with is dense and it's opaque, but the structure of these branches are not too dense. So you can draw those lines first if you don't feel like doing that, as I'm doing basically just with my brush. So you can draw some of this line and then paint over. So either way is going to be okay. And I think that in this part of the painting, the most important part is that you don't think that you are going to do any mistake. So there's not, as you can see, I don't have really a plan to do any of these lines that I am painting. So those are free, and we have in our brain, we already have some ideas of what a branch, of a bush is. So just go for it. And also here, you can stop at this point, or you can do what I am doing, which I have some branches to the right and some to the left. Okay, so the highest one are in these two sides, to the right, to the left, and then in the middle I have some lower vegetation. And now, okay, that we have everything basically done, we will finish with some of this green and some leaves also. I think I am repeating this part, which is not bad. Putting a little more of ochre, so I'm gonna try to do the leaves there, and I start working same thing I did with the trees. I start working with this kind of leaves there, some dots here, dots there, not a lot, because if we do a lot, we are going to covering up the landscape, and this is something that is just, this is if it is aleatory, but it's not too important. So we don't want to compete with the landscape. We don't want to cover up the landscape. So same color, some other branches, some of these dots. So you will stop doing that dots when really you have to consider when to stop, which is sometimes a very difficult decision when to stop in a landscape because you want to keep adding things. Sometimes it's for good, and sometimes just we overpaint, overdo some of our details. So be careful with that. So in this case, I'm gonna finish very soon with some more of leaves in these trees, in these not trees, these branches of these bushes here, and that's going to be it. We are finishing up, and we are done. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to take the tape out, and you're gonna see how our watercolor looks like. So it's a very interesting place. You go, you take that out in the way that I'm showing you. Okay, so you pull the tape, okay, in the opposite direction. I probably will have, and I did have some problems with this last tape, as you can see. That before, that because of the water, that part it was very wet and the paper really damaged. So you try to do your best when that happened. Okay, try to. It was because of the water, so that's what I'm trying to say, and because I am peeling basically peeling the paper, trying to create the less damage possible. Okay, in this case, it was not really so bad. Okay, so these little things that we can really, even with the hand, we can really fix. So we have our watercolor done. Thank you.